Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats. My name's Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by two excellent chaps who I've been recording this podcast with since 2021. Sambo and Johnny, how are we?
2021?
Very good. Very good.
Oh, I'm good.
2021, John Doe.
Excited after hearing that. That's
Yep.
a few years.
It is a few years
multiple
indeed. We've seen a lot of multiple years. We've seen a lot of water under the cat's bridge, including a flag, a prelim, maybe another flag this year. Who knows? Lots to
We'll have
cover.
to do
We
a,
are, of course, a part of. Yes.
A best of. We'll have to do a best of the Chaps Chat Cats at one point.
I definitely think that is like a prime candidate for like deep in the off season when none of us can be bothered pulling ourselves in front of the mic to record. We just say, "Hey, Colin, it's time for you to chop up Chaps best of."
Do like a
And
recap
people can just
episode like an
listen to
anime
it.
where they're like trying and they just desperately try and buy time for the animators to actually go home and see their children. We'll just do an episode
Or
just like a compilation of what's happened so far.
or a good episode of
Yeah.
reminiscing on past segments that we used to do. It'd only be like one or two, but it'd be interesting.
I was going to say, I'm sure nobody here, would enjoy anything more than hearing us talk about how good the past glories of our own show are.
Chaps
I think
Chat
that are going to be a ratings.
Bonanza.
Speaking of the people
They used to go for
watching
2 hours.
and listening, I know. Back in the day, we used to do 2-hour podcasts, hour 45, but we're only doing one a week then. It's all changed.
Yeah.
There's 2 a week now. I added up. I'm doing 5 shows across the week on the old Hoops Crew Media Network. So speaking of, though, people watching, listening this, normally this is the spot where I'd say, hey, we're doing our, preview pod, which I'm going to say. That's what's on tonight's show. We're doing Cats v Saints, round 23, preview. And then I would pivot to say, we're doing an extended part of the show as well, talking about our Patreon match predictions. And I would also, of course, then say that if you want to get that part of the show, to go on over to the Hoops Crew Patreon and subscribe for your 7-day free
We're not
trial.
doing any of that.
But I don't want to
Skip
do
it.
that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing any of that. But I do seriously want to say, though, chaps, thanks so much to everyone who watches and listens. And there's been some really, really nice comments on Spotify, on YouTube, on Twitter, on our Patreon the last week or so. And it's such a lovely thing that people would take the time to say something nice. There was one, I can't remember your full handle, I'm sorry, but it's Ferg. And Ferg's been watching and commenting on a lot of our videos across the season. And Ferg said basically the Hoops Crew has really actually improved his enjoyment of watching the footy this season. And when you hear stuff like that, I don't know, it does give you a bit of a G up and it feels like a really lovely thing.
Jam in your donut.
We obviously enjoy. That's right. Puts the jam in my donut. We love talking, obviously, cats footy with each other, but the fact there's people out there who listen and enjoy listening. We love to hear from you. We're glad to have you all on board. Let's jump into it, chaps. The Cats v Saints, round 23, the preview pod. There's a lot to get into here. This we've talked about, a potential danger game for the Cats. Maybe not a danger game, but the potential of a slip up, perhaps. If the Cats aren't careful, if the Cats don't come, sort of switched on. I really do feel like they're just looking to avoid a St Kilda slip up. It's the perfect spot for Ross the Boss to get what's been otherwise a fairly average Saints side up and about to try and play spoiler. I believe I went to you first on the recap pod, Johnny, so I'll flick to Sambo first here. What are your general thoughts going into this contest? Oh, the old mute button's got you.
Yeah, Scott. The mute's got Sam.
You got, I love it. Been attacked by the mute monster.
Come on,
Um,
Colin. He should be on top of that. He should be in your ear going, Sam, the mute's on, the mute's on. It shouldn't be left up to me and Jake
I
to
know.
let you
To
know.
be fair, I mute Colin because I can't stand listening to his just
Fair enough.
abhorrent voice. But,
And he's breathing in the mic.
yeah.
Yeah.
Colin, could you just not breathe? Just for like, we only record for a max hour and a half total.
Yeah.
Just hold it in.
Yeah, just
It's not a
Enough.
hard thing to do.
stop breathing for a bit, Colin.
Anyway, everything that you just said is certainly playing on the back of my mind. Like it's one of those the term is sort of being coined recently in the media of get it done games. A lot of people have sort of really picked up this sort of get it done game. And I think it's fair enough. It's one of those sort of slightly vague things where you go, yeah, aren't they all get it done games really? But basically, it's don't drop the ones that you really shouldn't drop. It doesn't matter if the footy looks good. It doesn't matter how many points you win by. But on the road, at home, whatever it is, when you're wanting to be in premiership contention, you can't be dropping silly ones. Basically, is the thought behind it. And this is one of those for me. This is absolutely one of those. Just grit the teeth, head down and get it done. Doesn't have to be a pretty game. I'd love us to smash them. I'd love us to absolutely just demolish this sorry excuse for a season they've had. But in light of that, 2 points, 1 point, whatever it is, just get over the line and don't get tripped up by we need a better name than Ross the Boss. Unless it's Ross the Boss of the Loss. Because Ross the Boss feels way too complimentary. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna get off the subject even before I say something to get me in trouble. I start swinging punches at people that aren't our producer. So yeah, I think by all regards, we should put this one away, and we should expect to put this one away, but we should certainly not take it for granted that we're just going to walk in there and win this one.
Yeah, definitely.
Johnny?
I feel pretty much the same. Just one thing I want to clear up. The clothes I'm wearing look a bit yellow in a certain colour. I'll just
Oh
make
my
it clear.
goodness, they do too.
Jumper is maroon, red, not the other colour of the scummy team that we despise so much. So I apologise if it does look that way. Unintentional. It's maroon, not that other hideous colour that tones the colours of our vivid enemy from the highway.
We already had you jump ship to the Swans during the season, John. You're not going to go to the Hawks now, are you?
If I even mention that's happening, I give you full permission to come and repeatedly stab me many times in my head and stomach and wherever you want.
Stab in the head. I'd never stab
any
in the
Cats
head.
fan.
That would risk blunting whatever instrument I'm using. Definitely the soft area.
To any Cats fan as well, not just you,
Well,
Chaps,
just take-
anyone. If I ever mention that, feel free to stab me.
John's address is.
Put up a screen, give him a bag of oats. Anyway, any other thoughts on the game, John Doe, or shall I move? Yes, please.
I think we can move on because I agree with exactly what Sam said. It's one of those games that it's just one of those games you've got to win. And as Sam perfectly put it, if you want to be a premiership contending team, you've got to beat teams that are in 14th or not going to make finals. It's just one of those must-dos. There's no disrespect to St Kilda or anything, but they are a team you just got to beat if you want to be a serious contender in the finals. Because if you can't beat teams who are not making finals, then are you really going to be able to compete in the big times, into finals? And yeah, I absolutely believe the Cats can easily account for St Kilda, but it is also one of those games that you don't go in full of confidence because they can be those games where you just go in too confident in yourself and not be prepared for what the other team can throw out because St Kilda's got nothing to lose. So they could go out there and go, what are we to have to lose? Nothing. Let's go out there and play our absolute best.
Yeah, they've got nothing to lose, not even pride. They can just
Exactly.
they just take a full swing at us. Yeah, they have had some sort of weird results. Like they've flogged Essendon. Was it a few weeks ago? Yeah, it was 108 to 55.
That's only Essendon.
They beat Sydney back on
They
July
did.
7th. Like they have had some weird wins this season. They have some bizarre losses. They are a bizarre team. All right, let's move on to talk about some team selection. I will just before we do move on say we are 3-2 against the Saints in the last 5 games against them. So it hasn't been all one-way traffic. It was for a while there, but yeah, not in the most recent 5 games. It's been a little more even and some close results. Few closer than the one we watched earlier this season down at Kardinia Park in the opening round of the campaign team selection, chaps. Let's have a look at it. There are 2 changes from the side that defeated the Fremantle Dockers. We have Zach Toohey out, managed. We have Tanner Bruin out. He's entered the AFL's concussion protocols. I feel like it's a Tom Clancy novel there. Concussion protocols. Tom Clancy, concussion protocol. And on the way in, a Gary Rowan returning from Tom Clancy's concussion protocols. And Mitch Nevitt. Mitch Nevitt bouncing into the side, chaps, after a career high 32 disposals in the VFL. That's career high for VFL or AFL for Mitch Nevitt. He also kicked 2 goals. So he comes into the side. Yes, come on, Colin. What are you doing? Where are the sound drops, Colin?
Exactly.
Wow, very nice.
It's too late.
It's too late now, Colin.
It's too late.
Like you can't
That's the
redeem
wrong
yourself.
one. Right character, wrong one.
What are we paying him?
We have 2. I thought. Let's avoid that topic. Mitch Hardy named as one of the emergencies, chaps. What are you thinking? Obviously, Sambo, you're happy to see get your boy Gary Rowan back in the team, but Johnny, Mitch Nevitt gets another go. What are your thoughts there?
Well, if you tout it up in the VFL, why not? I think we do need to start getting some games into him. I think he's a promising prospect that could play some really good football for the Cats. We've just got to give him the opportunities. And last year, I thought he played some really good games. This year, his games have been a bit up and down. He's been good a couple of times, not so good the other couple of times. I'm not sure how many times he's played. It's like 3 or 4 times.
3.
So I think he's 3. So yeah, it's been a bit up and down. So I think he just needs that bit more game time to really show what he can do. Because yeah, as I said, I think he's got the skills. He just needs that constant gameplay, the ability to run out a few more games in a row, which is going to be tough at this time of year heading into finals. Because I don't think he's in the best 22 for finals just yet. But the next 2 games could be his make and break moment for this year's finals. But at the end of the day, I still don't think he's going to oust Bruin or a Guthrie or a Zach Toohey or anything like that. Like he's still got a fair way to go. But I like to see him. I like to see the young guys getting the chance, and I think it's what the Cats need to continue to do is just give these young guys a taste of the AFL, keep them motivated to get to that position. And as we've mentioned so many times, you just got to give these kids a chance because we all know where Zach Guthrie came from. He was same boat as Nevitt. Looked like he had all the skills, the abilities. Cats persisted with him, and now he's one of the integral defenders of the team and one of the key defenders of our team. So it's just one of those guys. I think if the Cats stick with him, he could become another key midfielder in the future. Might be 2-3 years down the track, but he just needs those that game time. So I'm glad to see him getting a chance. I'm not sure if it'll be the sub or on the bench, but either between him and Mullen, who the sub is.
Yeah, it's interesting if you sort of compare the pair, as you were talking about there. You brought up the name Zach Guthrie. He only played Zach Guthrie in his first 3 seasons at the Cats. 17 games in his first three years at the Cats. 13 so far for Mitch Nevitt. The next season, the 4th season for Zach Guthrie, which was 2020, he only played 3 games. So, you know, in his first 4 seasons of AFL at the Cats, 20 games for Zach Guthrie. Played 13 games in 2021, and then 2022 he played 21 games, 23 played 23 games, 24 he's played 21 games so far. So I'm totally with you guys. Anyone who's listened to the pod for more than 5 minutes knows that I'm kind of a believer that Mitch Nevitt has promise, but it's more about, you know, physically developing. He's a tall player. You know,
He's still
he's
quite
actually
skinny.
listed on AFL. Yes. Well, he's listed on AFL tables as being 6 centimeters taller than Zach Guthrie. He's 193 centimeters. Believe he's taller than Dangerfield, may even be taller than Tom Stewart. Like he's going to be, if he can add the sort of requisite bulk to his frame, I think he's going to be a pretty powerful, tough matchup. But it is a bit about wait and see. And he's only 21. I think that's worth pointing out. Yeah, he's still very young. So I think it's fine. Different players take different routes to get there, different timelines. So I'm not too worried personally. And I'm glad to see him bump up. It's good to see him have a really confidence building game. And he's been playing pretty well in general in the VFL. So yeah, good to see him back in. Another opportunity to show what he's got. Sambo, any thoughts on the selection to add here? Anything stand out in particular to you?
No, not particularly. Concur with everything you guys say. Obviously stoked to see Rowan back in. Yeah, I'll be interested to see, so we know who's in, who's out, and how they've written out the lineup here. But I'll be very interested to see how they actually run out right before the first bounce, because it's always a bit of a wait and see.
I've got a sneaky feeling there could be a late change of some sort. That wouldn't surprise me again.
Yeah, I was sort of hoping to see Mitch Hardy at some point in these last 2 games. I don't know. I'm not going to speak any more about him because I've said it ad nauseum both here and on the VFL coverage on the hoops. But I'm not convinced that he's not at the club next year. I think there's a chance that he is a Cat in 2025. It's just, you know, there's a longer term plan. I guess that's just speculation from a million miles away. But I'd love to see him get a game this week. Let's move on from that to what we want to see. Sambo, will bounce back to you first for this one. And what is one thing that you would like to see from this game?
I think I can't remember 100%, but I think I touched on the different avenues to goal last week, right? Like that was what it was. I wanted to see some a slightly more diverse array of scoring locations and players. And I guess I'm gonna follow the theme because I still felt like I wasn't 100% satisfied with that, but I'm gonna go more specific and say I would like to see our turnover game return. So I think across years, a big shift in our kind of profile across this year, across across the season, and even in the last 6-7 weeks, where we've just become truly defensively solid and way more deadly out of the middle, way better set up in the midfield, way more damaging from the midfield, and all of that's really good. But I think it has kind of come at the cost of our turnover game, and haven't looked enough to know, is that literally just because Tom Stewart's now playing so much in the middle, and our turnover game relied so heavily on Stewart being in the back line? It feels kind of like that's the obvious story happening here. But at the same time, I think teams are so complex, and there's probably got to be more to it than that. So the thing that I would like to see, not like a night and day difference, but I would like to see some of that real damaging turnover game return, because I think we've sharpened up in so many places across the game, and I'd just like to see a couple of those instances where we take an inset mark and just punt them straight away. Not like an inset mark and a turnover, and then lock it in there and repeat entries for minutes, and it results in a goal. I love that. I love that we can lock it in there. But I would love to see some of those really damaging counterattack turnover goals return.
Nice. I like it.
Love it.
Good
What about
decision.
you, Johnny? What would you like to see? One thing you want to see?
One thing. I'm going to go on. One thing I'd like to see is what we talked about last week. Is I want to see a few more of those cutback passes inside 50. We saw a couple last week. I want to see a few more. A few more of those leads where they're just running down the wing and they cut it straight back inside to 50, catch out the Saints completely out off guard. And I think we could do it. I think they can do it, and they've got the ability to do it. So yeah, I'd just like to see them put in motion more of those passes rather than getting it inside 50 to Cameron, Neil, Ollie Henry. Switch it up a bit every now and then. It doesn't have to be all the time because it becomes predictable, but like 5 times a quarter maybe, if we going inside 50 a lot, or even like half of what we go inside 50, have them cut backs and just keep the Saints guessing of what we're going to do. And I think if they're able to do that, we could really do some damage to the Saints.
Love it. I'm going to combine a sneaky rapid fire 2 in there, and it's about 2 of Geelong's future players. I'm going to say I would love to see a confidence building performance for Mitch Nevitt at AFL level. He's starting to reach that zone where he goes back to the VFL, racks up numbers, pops back up to the AFL, doesn't look as convincing. I'd just love to have a game where maybe it's not enough to earn his spot in the side. Unless he has like 35 touches, I think he's going to bump back out as soon as Tanner Bruin's healthy, sort of thing. Just love to see, 15 to 20 disposals, maybe he kicks a goal. I'd like to see him lay 5 or 6 tackles. Flash that good contested marking ability he has. So I'd love to see just a confident performance from Mitch Nevitt that takes some of what he's good at VFL level and just applies it to the AFL stage. My second one is weird game. We're talking about, can we avoid the slip up against St Kilda? And they're a tricky team. And then there's all this talk about the Hawkins and Neil and what's going to happen there. I would love to see Shannon Neil come out and just have a really confident, like a breakout performance in terms of in terms of hitting the scoreboard and just his marking. Just a night where he goes and clunks everything that's in his zone, and just causes an absolute sort of unforeseen headache for the Saints. I just feel like there's this idea in my head, it's a bit of a gut feeling that we're going to have the commentators talking a lot on Saturday night about how good is this Shannon Neil? How do the Cats keep doing this, just finding players that, take up the mantle? I don't know. I've just got this weird feeling that we might see a big game from Shannon Neil, and I would like to see it. All right. That's all from us on the public part of the show. We are, as I didn't say at the top of the show, we are going to go now behind the Patreon curtain and talk all about our Patreon match predictions. We're also going to answer a Patreon subscriber question about our favorite moments throughout our history of watching the Cats against St Kilda. So there's an obvious one that stands out that will no doubt get talked about, but I think there's a couple of others definitely planted in my mind that I would like to get to. But as usual, we're going to play you out with our favorite four-legged friend, the halftime horse. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure you're subscribing on your favorite podcast app, on YouTube, etc. Until next time, go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats! You get your cordial, you get your lollies, a spray from the coach. Lollies, absolutely.
Spray.
So you get your cordial, you get your lollies, a spray from the coach. Lollies, absolutely.
Spray. That's what halftime's about.